Hello everyone. I just wanted to document the core design for this Python package for FlashTest, um, FlashXTest. That's what I'm calling it because to differentiate between the old version and the new version. Um, and I took some feedback from everyone after the meeting today, and I think it is ready to test with GCE. Uh, Setups because it's just cleaning up the interface. It's not doing anything. The code is still using the old FlashTest Python API. So yeah, I can set up baseline and composite tests with this. Um, but it would also be nice if um, you guys can use it and tell me if there is any glitches on your end. If you can install like the simple things like if it can be installed or not, if it's working. So that would give me some feedback on resolving issues like that. Um, uh, the repository, I'll share the link, but it is on the cells GitHub page. So if you get repository, it's on the git.cellsanl.gov. I can add everyone, whoever is interested in trying it out. I can give you access to this. Um, so now if you initially clone the repo, so I just want to give a tutorial so you can come back to it, um, you know, have a reference. So this is like initial design, but it's ready to use. Um, so the repository looks something like this. So eventually this will be a whole Python package, but right now if you want to install it, you have to clone the repository. And there is a setup, there's a Python setup script, and there is a bash setup script just called setup. And you can do setup develop to install it on your machine, and it will install all the dependencies. Then you can also do setup and setup install to install, excuse me, to install all of this um, um, and remove the repository after installing. So it will permanently start on your Python side. So let's do setup develop for now because it's easy for designing the interface. Okay, so once you install it, if you type FlashXTest help, you will see option, so Python CLI for FlashXTest. Um, option is name of the test, the FlashX site, the output directory, and then the argument is the list of tests that you want to run, right, for that particular test name. I intentionally kept this interface minimal because a lot of the information can be supplied inside the config file. Um, and I don't want to create a design where you have to supply one value in multiple locations. So everything is supplied in config file, and you can override a couple of things that you want to override. But I made it restrictive because it is important to stick to the design to make this more cleaner and manageable. Okay, so after you install it, all you can go inside the project root directory and you'll see that there is a lot of different things. There is an API, there is a command line interface. So there is a Python API to this as well, and which is what I'm going to show. And I'll show a demo of the command line as well. I'll show both. And then there is resources folder, right? And the resources folder points to the original FlashTest repository, which contains all the um, beautifully designed Python interface, right? So that is untouched. This is just a wrapper over it. Okay. Let's just go to example so you can follow it and trying to see if it works. So I got some feedback on this today, so I have cleaned up the interface a little bit. And this is how I would recommend organizing repositories or organizing a testing directory. Um, So you have your config file, right? So inside your config file, you define your flash base directory, right? You define your site. You define your output directory here, which you can override with the output option, both through command line and Python API. So you supply all of that in config file, and then you can create separate XML files for different sub units of code that you want to test. So I created a grid.xml, and you notice that I don't put the site here, right? So the site specific file will be auto generated during the test. So this can be used with multiple sites. So you don't have to repeat the same test over and over again and create multiple copies of the test.xml, test.info.xml file. So you see here I define some unit tests which are related to grid. So it's under grid.xml. And then there is incomeflow.xml, which defines unit tests related to incompressible Navier-Stokes, right? So the organization is entirely up to the user. Whichever way you can organize these based on uh, different criterias that you decide to, right? So that's the XML file structure, right? Note that there no site specific information, just what the test is, what kind of test it is, and that's it. And then you have a run test script, which is a Python execute. I mean, it runs inside a Python environment. It's a executable, but it runs in a Python environment. And inside that, you just import the API. So you say from FlashXTest.api import FlashXTest, and you define a dictionary. And the dictionary, the keys for the dictionary will correspond to the directories here. So let's say you want to run grid and incompressible Navier-Stokes. You just supply the keys, and then you supply the list of tests that you want to run from text.xml file. And then you just call FlashXTest, and you supply the dictionary. If you want to change the site, you can just say flash site equals to whatever site you want to supply. You can set path to output directory here as well if you want to change some path inside. So you can change that too for your invocation. But if you don't, then it will be just read from the config file as it is designed to be. And then that's it. So you just have to replace your bash script with this, and I think everything should work very seamlessly. And you can just run tests. And oh, I did not load my. Let's see, did I load my modules? No. So module restore FlashX. Okay. And while this is actually, I'll submit a Slurm script. So I created a Slurm script here to dispatch this test. So I'm just going to do that. And while that's running, we can look at, so in this case, I am just choosing to output results in this directory. I mean, you can edit the config file and output it wherever you want. And also in config file, you can set path to baseline, and everything will be read by the core flash test script. So composite and baseline test will also work. And then in test results, the only difference is that the test will be organized based on the XML file. And I believe that this is helpful, especially if I am a physics unit developer and I want to organize my test. It is nice to have results organized based on the XML files as well. So that's the only, and then you have the site, and then you can have tests, right? And then this is the test.info, which contains the site parameter here, or the site class. Okay. Yes, that's pretty much it. The command line interface is also very simple. Let's see. Let me just cancel this job. Okay. So command line interface, if you are inside the config file, I can just run FlashXTest. Name is grid, and then let's just pick up a test. So say I want to run the first test. See if I have all the modules available first. Perfect. Okay, so I can do FlashXTest name grid and then run this test, and it's going to run the test. Just gonna wait for it. So cancel it. But yeah, so you can also then change the site directly here. If you want to, let's say, run a specific test on a specific site, you can supply the name of the site. Similarly, you can change the output directory here as well. I would not recommend using the command line interface that way. If you want to do all these changes, just use the Python API, because Python API is more manageable. Command line interface is just for like quick tests, right? So you have defined your site and everything on the config in the config file, and you want to do a quick test on a specific test, you can just do it like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll leave the link to the repository. Please try it. I would love some feedback. And if this is helpful, we can make it available to everyone, to the community, if they want to use it. Okay, thank you. Bye.